Okay. Well, my apologies that we are live and I did not know that. We'll call this meeting to order. Diana, if I can get you to call roll, please.
Representative Berger,
Here.
Representative Nemec,
Here.
Representative Obermueller,
Here.
Representative O'Hearn,
Here.
Representative Pendergraft,
Here.
Representative Smith,
Here.
Representative Stivar,
Present.
Representative Wiley,
Here.
Chairman Brown.
All right, committee. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. Welcome, everybody. First and foremost, we'll just do the quick brief understanding that this is a committee. You talk through the chairman. No sidebar conversations back and forth between the dais and the testimony table. Please keep conversations at the dais to a minimum if at all possible. And the biggest thing out of everything that we have here is treat each other with respect. I will shut it down immediately if we start getting out of hand with anybody, no matter which way we go. So with that being said, we are going to move in. And as I was stating off mic, for those that are listening, we are actually going to start with House Bill number 9. And I will have the department bring that forward and just briefly go over the bill with us if they don't mind, please, Mr. Byrne. And I feel bad for you guys. You guys probably didn't think you'd ever have to worry about coming in here, but we've seen you guys nonstop for the past year. So if you would, please introduce yourself for the record. And I'll have you guys go ahead and just briefly go over the bill again. The committee has seen this. It's been out there for quite a while. We don't have to spend a ton of time, but committee, if you do have questions, we'll answer those as needed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dennis Byrne. I'm the Chief Financial Officer with WYDOT. And to my left is Wayne Hassinger and Kim Peters, who are our fuel tax administrating group. So any hard questions, they'll be able to answer very quickly, I'm sure. Mr. Chairman, just a quick walkthrough on the bill. Lines 1 through 5, just a summary, extends the deadline for providing fuel tax return and license information requested by WYDOT. Page 2 modifies Wyoming Statute 39-17-107 from the 10 days to the 15 business days. Page 3, lines 6 through 12 modifies Wyoming Statute 39-17-207, the diesel tax collection, again, extending from 10 business days to 15 business days. And then on page 4, lines 3 through 9 modifies Wyoming Statute 31-7-307, which is the alternative fuel tax collection procedures. Again, just an extension from 10 days to the 15 business days. Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, I'll turn it over to Wayne and he can talk about kind of how we got here, just very briefly, and any impacts that it has on us.
Perfect. Please, Mr. Hassinger.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. Really, this for us is a fairly simplistic thing. We have always operated under the 10-day reporting back to us. We appreciate that can create a hardship depending on what time of year, or maybe just because it's only 10 calendar days. When one of our customers approached us with the idea that it should be much longer, we met in the middle at 15 business days. We would be cautious to go any further than that just because of the 30 days every month our customers report. Those could start to overlap. So that's how we ended up at the 15 business day agreement. It has no negative impact on us.
Ms. Peters, anything further? You're all good? Okay. Committee, any questions? Remember, this was brought to us by industry originally, just a request, and WYDOT said, you bet, which is fantastic. So thank you guys. Any questions at all? Anybody? Seeing none. Okay, you guys are good to go. Thank you so much. Any public testimony on this bill? Seeing none. Anybody out on online? No? Okay. Committee will bring the bill back to the dais. What is your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by Stivar, seconded by O'Hearn. Committee, we're not going to walk through this bill line by line. It's a pretty simple bill. So any amendments, any questions? Okay, Diana, if you please call roll.
Okay, Representative Berger,
Aye.
Representative Nemec,
Aye.
Representative Obermueller,
Aye.
Representative O'Hearn,
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft,
Aye.
Representative Smith,
Aye.
Representative Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wiley,
Aye.
Chairman Brown.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes.
Thank you. And this year, guys, I'm not going to give you a choice on to who's going to ask for these. I'm just going to start down to the left and we're going to move to the right this year for who's going to take bills. So Representative Smith, I'll have you carry this on the floor, please. Awesome. Thank you. With that, we will move over to House Bill number 8, a little more contentious, if you will. Ms. Zimmerman, Mr. Rossetti, if you please come forward, introduce yourselves and explain what in the world we're trying to do here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor Rossetti, Support Services Administrator at WYDOT. In front of you is House Bill number 8. This was a committee bill. What we're trying to do here is make for the allowance that 18-year-olds who qualify will be able to operate hazmat placarded CDL vehicles in intrastate transportation within the state of Wyoming. Looking at the bill, it is a very simple bill. I think the meat is on page 2 of that bill on lines 14 through 16. We simply add that provided that the licensed driver has attained the age of 18 years. As we talked this through the committee, we did mention to the committee that we do have some rulemaking authority within this space. After the November meeting, we did receive a letter from both chairs from the Senate side as well as Chairman Brown requesting that we explore that avenue. We actually had a rulemaking in process. We pulled that back. We did actually go ahead and add this to that rule. In January then, I did submit a copy of those rules to the chairs. It includes this change as well as another one that we may talk at a later date. I can tell you that the update on that rule is that it will go in front of the Transportation Commission on Thursday. Not seeing any issues with that going through. It would then go to the governor's office and then out for public comment, which is really kind of one of the advantages of the rule process is the public does have 45 days to comment on the rule. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd certainly end my testimony and Misty knows all the good stuff. Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman.
Chairman Brown, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Misty Zimmerman. I'm the program manager for driver services. I think Mr. Rossetti covered this bill very, clearly. We've talked it through the interim. The ability that we have through statute to promulgate rules for federal regulations gives us that sort of flexibility if in fact that we do have changes with our federal regulations and that type of thing. So we've worked through both sides of this and whatever the committee decides, we'll work forward and make that happen.
Committee, any questions for Mr. Rossetti or Ms. Zimmerman? Seeing none, okay. I do have a question for you. We talked back in the interim and there was discussion that this was ultimately potentially going to raise some flags at the federal level. You guys discussed that. You guys went through a little bit of this. Some of the other states around us have gone through the similar process. Has there been any further developments with those discussions? Anything further we should be aware of beyond the rulemaking process that you guys have been made attention to?
Mr. Chairman, you are correct. I think initially we were a little hesitant as a department to go down this road. We were receiving some mixed advice from our federal partners in this arena. We didn't have final confirmation prior to that November meeting, but since that November meeting, we did receive information from Federal Motor Carrier that we do have the authority to allow this to happen with it for intrastate transportation. So at this point in time, the department doesn't have any concerns that if we keep it as we have stated in the rule or here in the statute, we're okay. We're comfortable.
Okay, thank you for the update. Committee, anything further for Ms. Zimmerman or Mr. Rossetti? Nothing? Okay, thank you guys both. Any public testimony on this bill? Please come forward. Introduce yourself, first and last name for the record.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Patricia McCoy, and I have been a resident of Laramie County since 2007. And as my shirt implies, I have been a trucker's wife since 2011. I was very alarmed as soon as I saw this bill on the list to come. I was also concerned with House Bill 6. But for this one, my husband has been driving for a very long time. I have seen some of the craziest, nastiest things you could possibly imagine on our roadways here in Wyoming while he's in that truck. He has hauled hazardous materials since I'd say about 2016. So it took him 5 years to build experience, well over the age of 21 when he got his CDL in 2011, because it's not safe. It's not safe to put young drivers on the road with hazardous materials. We're already concerned about the safety of road closures and people going through those. And now we're like, let's let 18-year-olds haul super dangerous stuff that's bad for the environment and everything else. So I really think that this bill needs to just be squashed, and it should not be changed from 21. You should have experience in driving the truck long before you are given that hazmat endorsement and be allowed to haul those types of materials. I have seen those accidents up close and personal, and they are not pretty things to see. And they do infect our roadways, our land here. So we don't want to have this stuff being spilled left and right just because we're giving younger people an option. I know we're short on truck drivers. I know we're short on hazardous haulers, especially because you need that experience. But to do this and put a Band-Aid on that problem by creating several more is not the answer for this. So I'm here today to beg you to please consider taking this off the table and not lowering the age to 18 from 21. I will answer any questions if you have them for me.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Any questions for Ms. McCoy? Yes, Representative Stivar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what about military? We let 18-year-olds drive hazmat in the military. They're trained.
They are.
That's, that's the same way. I believe that they'll have the training before they just turn them loose.
Ms. McCoy,
I would like to say that that is true.
please recognize the chair
Oh,
and
sorry.
the representative, please.
My apologies. This is only my second time.
You're okay.
speaking here. My apologies, Representative Stivar. I'm
You're
happy
okay. You're
to
okay.
answer that question. You are correct. We do give them the licenses in the military as well. Do I agree with that also? No, I do not. I still do not think that an 18-year-old, whether in the military or a private citizen, should be given the license to haul hazardous materials. Yes, I would like to believe that they are going to get all the proper necessary training prior to be given that endorsement and the opportunity by the truck driving companies. But I have also seen firsthand where they don't get all the training before being put into those trucks, hauling fuel right here in Laramie and in Cheyenne. I won't give the name of companies, but I can tell you the people that haul the fuel for your cars, they don't care if they have the proper training before they put them in those trucks, and it's not safe.
Representative Pendergraft, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Oh, that's okay. It's
That's,
Patricia McCoy.
please understand that I have a military background. I was a motor sergeant. I did dispatching. My first question, I'll have a couple after that. Have you ever known any drivers over the age of 35 who were not particularly competent?
Yes, sir, I do. I know several
Patricia,
actually. Oh, sorry.
Please refer, that's okay. We're still breaking the rest off. Just please refer all your comments to the chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank
thank you. Yes, I know several who are completely incompetent over the age of 40, and I could tell you they're over the age of 50 as well. Do I think that they should be given the hazmat endorsement without having that experience and knowledge? No, I do not.
Representative Pendergraft, you have a couple follow-ups.
Follow-up.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a follow-up to that. Would you agree with me that the ultimate responsibility for who is in the seat of that truck is the owner of that truck, backed up by the insurance company that is there?
Ms. McCoy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with that. It is in the responsibility of the company and the insurance company that's going to insure them.
You're good? Okay. Any further questions for Ms. McCoy? Seeing none. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any further testimony here in? Okay, please come forward. And just introduce yourself for the record. Haven't seen you in a while, Keith. Good to see you,
Yeah.
sir.
Mr. Chairman, Keith Kennedy on behalf of Wyoming Ag Business Association. And I would give you an example. We highly support this bill. And the example that I would give you is that we can have someone who is otherwise fully licensed as a driver, fully licensed to commercially apply pesticides, and they have received extensive training in that already, and they simply can't drive the truck to move to another field because it happens that that particular formulation or size of container dictates that they have to have a hazardous materials endorsement. The example that I'd give is a very common herbicide, 2,4-D, is often delivered in 230-gallon totes, and that requires a placard. If that same driver has that product in 5 55-gallon drums, it isn't placardable and it doesn't require an endorsement. And I would beg you to tell me the difference. I think those people are fully qualified, and it would certainly ease some logistics on our part if those folks were able to receive that endorsement. Along with that, we shouldn't forget that this also requires a background check and fingerprinting as well. And with that, I'd welcome your questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Thank you so much, Keith. Good to see you. Ms. Little?
Chairman Brown, members of the committee, my name is Kelly Little. I'm with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. As you all are aware, there is a systemic and sustained shortage of quality workforce in Wyoming, and the construction industry is definitely not immune to that shortage. When considering this piece of legislation, we definitely weighed the need to balance the safety and security of the traveling public with the flexibility and opportunity for our members to broaden their hiring prospects. We're supporting this bill, and we believe that the already established training requirements for this kind of endorsement would mean any newly eligible prospects would be adept and qualified interstate drivers of these kinds of materials. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Little? Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Kelly. And do we still have Sheila online? Okay. Seeing nobody else in the room running to get to the microphone, I'll go ahead and bring Sheila in. Ms. Furch, if you just introduce yourself for the record when you're let in. You're okay. Just breaking the rust off after a year of being away, guys. There we go. Getting it to work there. Sheila, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to join you remotely this afternoon. I appreciate the flexibility you offer to those of us that can't be there in person today. I don't want to repeat things that Mr. Kennedy or Ms. Little said. They made very good points. If you'll remember during the interim, we were hesitant at the initial discussion to be supportive of this effort just because we were concerned because we were receiving the same kind of information that YDOT was receiving, that it really wasn't something that was allowed at the state level to do this kind of endorsement for 18-year-olds. But since that has been answered, we are very supportive of this bill and feel very strongly that while there's been comments made that the hazmat endorsement is given, you have to be qualified to get the hazmat endorsement. It's just not automatic. You can walk in there and say, I want a CDL, and oh, by the way, give me the hazmat endorsement. There are qualifications, there is training involved. And it ultimately is up to the carrier who he's placing in his vehicle, who he is allowing to use that vehicle to transport their customers' products. So the ultimate responsibility lies on the carrier. We feel very strongly that continuing education, the training that carriers are required to give their drivers raises a lot of the, or abates a lot of the concerns that are brought up regarding 18-year-olds having this kind of an endorsement. So we are very supportive of this legislation.
Committee, any questions for Ms. Furch? Thank you, Sheila, for being here or remote. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further testimony? Seeing none, we'll close public testimony and we'll bring the committee, the bill back up to the committee on the dais. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Wiley, seconded by Stivall. Committee, this is a pretty straightforward bill. Any amendments noted by anybody? And then since we've moved it and we're open for discussion, I'll go ahead and just start the discussion briefly and make sure that everybody's aware as we are all aware now. The rulemaking process is going through the process as it started already. And I think that that's a little more flexible in case anything were to find its way to be negative with this opportunity with the feds. If we put this into statute, we go through that process, it makes it through, it gets signed into law. You have to wait for another year before we can take it out of law. Now, that being said, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem with us having this in there. And if we know that this creates conflict, certainly the department can just pull back as necessary underneath the direction of the governor as well and just remove that as well. So is there any concerns from the committee on running this forward or moving this out to the floor with the other horse in the race at this point? Yes, Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a concern, just a comment. This is something that was particularly of interest to me because I have had some experience with young drivers hauling, frankly, nuclear warheads across Europe. I was approached by a number of independent contractors. I actually interviewed one. That interview is available online now. It went on for over an hour. And ultimately for me, this kind of comes down to a matter of liberty. It keeps us or any other government for over encroaching on an independent contractor. Ultimately, as was stated by Sheila and others, that the buck does stop with them. And I would also add that I think there are very few owner operators who would entrust an 18-year-old with a hazmat load. However, there are some rare exceptions out there. Some farm kids perhaps have been operating equipment, machinery for many years who have proven themselves capable. And I want to give that liberty to those owners to do that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, yes, Representative Obermueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that the testimony about the hazards of the young people and the training that I heard that testimony, I think all of us did. So many times on some of these things, it comes down to taking a vote and it's like, it's black and white then. But the thought process is much more difficult than that. And I did appreciate the testimony that we heard here today. But we all need to balance that against all the testimony we've heard. So please don't feel slighted if this vote doesn't go your way today. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Representative Berger, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I agree with the good representative comment there. And I appreciate you coming up and testifying like that and well concerned and concerned for safety. You know, I agree. And knowing full well and me having the confidence that these kids, these young people will put their best in as when they get that license. And that's the other side I'm feeling in too. Thank you.
Committee, just for recollection on this as well, where this originated from was last winter. We had problems getting propane back across the interstate from South Dakota mainly. We had troubles with the propane company up there being able to get propane into people who depended on it and life-saving measures. And we actually ended up having our governor having to sign executive orders to emergency executive orders to get propane into the state for people who depended upon it. And we were assured by a couple of people they would have been able to hire 18-year-olds to get that delivery done in state had they been able to do so. And so this was certainly a solution that unfortunately a problem was presented earlier. We don't know that this will necessarily just grow out of control, but I do appreciate Ms. McCoy's testimony as well. I think we have a very good balanced procedure in place, and I don't suspect that we need to live in fear at this point, but I certainly think that we also have the ability to pull this back at any time. That's our job, and that's our prerogative as a committee. So any further testimony? Okay. Diana, if you could please call roll on House Bill 8, please.
Okay, Representative Berger,
Aye.
Representative Nemec,
Aye.
Representative Obermuller,
Aye.
Representative O'Hearn,
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft,
Aye.
Representative Smith,
Aye.
Representative Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wiley,
Aye.
Chairman Brown.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes.
All right. And just as we said earlier, this one goes to chair number 2. So Representative Nemec, I'll have you carry this one out on the floor for us as well. Seeing nothing else at this point and noticing that we have no other bills assigned to us at this point, I do not anticipate us having a meeting on Thursday. However, keep your eyes peeled. We have plenty of bills that could come our way, so just be aware of that. So with that, we are adjourned.